Hi, thanks for joining us to go through our model in a bit more detail. I'm hoping you've come across from the website where you've probably seen a very short video around the model, how it works, and what we coach you through in each of the stages. This one takes you through in a bit more detail than that. We'll go through each of the 9 steps that we've got on the course, but we'll give you a bit of an oversight as well. So we talk about obviously Ascend. In our terms, Ascend is taking yourself out of the day-to-day of the business. It's lifting yourself above that. So obviously you can focus on being more strategic and the old phrase working on your business rather than in your business. And this is designed to help you achieve that in a very simple. So we take you, as we said, from what we describe as operational overload down at the bottom through these 9 stages, where you'll end up at the end with this visionary leadership. And obviously, visionary leadership is about someone who is looking forwards, looking to the future, planning for the future, looking ahead, kind of your 2 quarters ahead of the rest of the business. Because that's where you need to be as the chief exec or the founder. You can't be in the weeds. You can't be involved in every single decision, every task, getting overworked, overstressed. We've all been there, not sleeping, the fatigue and the kind of the mental impact that has on you. And so we designed this course really to unpick a lot of that, but also use kind of my knowledge and learnings over the past 20, 25 years of working in the sector. Plus, I've got a bit of a sports background. I studied sport and exercise science at university, love sports psychology, sport leadership, sport coaching. Genuinely wanted to be a PE teacher my entire life until I got to university and kind of flicked between different things. But also, having worked in Agile, having worked in Scrum teams, looking at some of the good bits of that, I've also got a tool that helps with qualitative data capture that brings that in. So it's around giving you the structure, the insight, and some of the ideas and thought processes that get you from A to B or from overload to leadership throughout the model. So where do we start? It's in 3 tiers effectively, and if you've seen the first video, you'll have seen it as a triangle on the website, and we'll very quickly take you through that. But within each stage, we've got Unburden, we've got Align, and we've got Build Momentum. And in each area, we're looking at kind of one of the pain points that we can unpick for you. So with Unburden, looking at people, the overwhelm or the being overloaded with work that you've got on. When we look at Align, we'll be looking at the fact that for many, it feels like it's all on your shoulders. Everything's sat there, everything sits with you, and the weight of that is crushing. Then moving forwards, you might be inconsistent, you might be slightly unstructured in how you work. So we kind of try and give you that structure to help you build momentum so that you can take your plans forward as an organization. So the first element is obviously unpack. And what we're trying to do here is get you to stop basically being a player and step into a coaching role. Not a coach as what I'm doing with you, but more the theme around what you would be if you were a coach of a sports team. So if you're the head coach, if you're the manager, whichever sport you follow, whether it be football, soccer, NFL, even cricket, rugby, F1 fits into the model quite nicely. When you're the head coach or you're the manager, there are things you can no longer do because you're not on the pitch, you're not playing. You have to trust your players. You have to set them up to succeed and to win. And obviously from there are things you can do. You can set the structure, you can set the strategy, you can set the tactics, you can set the communication, you can set the tone of the organization. All these things are within your gift to do, but you then have to trust your team to go out and deliver them. And that's what we try to get to through the first stage, through the unpack, is just getting you to unpack the work that you do, how you think about it, and your role within the organization. We then move into simplify. And here we're trying to look about how we kind of simplify your priorities, what you're working on, what you should be working on, what you're not working on. Again, if you're from a tech background, you've probably used Moscow as a rule many, many times into what you're going to be looking at as a system, how you're going to build it, what features you're going to give it. But you can use Moscow in multiple ways. You can use it to align the work that you're doing, what you should be doing, what you could delegate out, what you won't do. There's other methods. There's the Eisenhower model that puts it into 2x2 grid. There's multiple ways of doing it, but essentially for you, it's working out what your priorities are and what you're working on. From there, we go into delegate, hopefully straightforward, but this essentially is trying to remove you from being the bottleneck. So decisions that sit with you, what work can't progress unless you've kind of agreed it, authored it, something like that. So across Unburden, we're obviously unpacking, we're trying to move you from player to coach, bit of a mindset shift in what you do. We're trying to set your priorities through Simplify. And then obviously delegate is probably taking some of those Moscows, maybe those coulds and woulds, and moving them on to other members of your team. Remembering obviously the basic theory, you're the coach, they're the players, they should be doing the majority of the delivery. You're setting the strategic alignment of that team. So then, as I said, we move into align. And this is where obviously we're trying to remove the weight from your shoulders. We're trying to simplify things for you, help you to get through this model. And obviously you'll see we go from misdirected to unified. So this is again about aligning the team, making sure everyone's on the same page, making sure they see the vision, where you're trying to go, what you want to achieve, and obviously they can then get behind that as well. And the first element of that is then obviously the vision. And if we were looking at sports terms, again, we're thinking about a season. So this is about defining your season and where you want to be within it. And I think it's a bit of a misconception that everyone thinks they have to be almost at the top. Whereas again, if you're a sports team, and I use football for this example, mainly because I support Leicester, and they're a great example of this at the moment, that coming up to the Premier League, no one's expecting Leicester to win it again or to be into Europe or be in top six. Our only ambition for this season is to be 17th or above. It's to survive the league and stay in the league. And I think when you look at businesses, it's almost like everyone's trying to be Liverpool or Man City or trying to achieve that. But for many, survival, mid-table, I don't know, scraping into Europe might be a good way of explaining it, of where you want to get to. So this is all around that season-long goal. And F1, a sport like that, is exactly the same. If you look at that, you've got the teams at the top. You've got your Ferraris and your McLarens and your Mercedes that are almost in one competition. And then you've got your other teams, your Saubers, your Aston Martins. They all changed name. Your Williamses, that are kind of in a mid-table battle, and then you've got teams at the back of the grid that are in their own little battle. So it's about kind of working out where you want to be as an organisation and how far you want to go this season. It could purely be that you just need to survive. It could be that you are looking at another element of growth, another shift, or you've been mid-season for a few years, and actually we are pushing for Europe. We are looking to expand. Let's make sure everyone is on the same page and understands that and where you're trying to get to. And I've gone backwards, not forwards. Apologies. So framework. Here we start to bring in what I've kind of described as my 5D Agile framework. And this is about giving you structure. And again, if you're from a tech background, you'll have worked with Sprint, you'll have worked with Scrum. It's a very, very similar concept, so it'll be something you're familiar with, but sprints are generally around cadence. You're trying to measure how much work you can get done within a time period, and then you're looking at obviously obstacles and the bottlenecks within that to release them so you can build more in the next sprint, and obviously each sprint you're meant to get slightly better at delivering, and at the end of each you've got something there. We look at it slightly differently. We use the term races just because we're not in sprints, we're not racing, we're not trying to measure cadence. And races can obviously be of different length. But if you think of a race as being a month, it's a time box. Month works for most people. Some people will do quarters. You're looking at the structure, and we've got 5 Ds that we use: discuss, discover, decide, design, and deliver within that model. But we use them as verbs and nouns. So as verbs, it's things we should be doing as an organisation. Excuse me. So there should be discussions, there should be discovery, we should be making decisions, we should be designing go-to-market plans, our tactics, what we're doing, and then we've got delivery of that at the end. And it might be that you look at them as you do the first few in the first couple of days, so you have all your discussions at the start of the month, then you move into your discovery, and then like days 5 to 30 are deliver. And it's just to give you some sort of structure. You can use it more ad hoc as well, and we can work with you on what that model looks like. But then as nouns, you're then thinking about data collection. And this is, again, where the qualitative data side comes in. So keep a record of all those decisions, keep a record of the discovery that you've done, keep a record of conversations you've had about the strategy, the vision, everything like that, because ultimately you're going to build a database of almost like your company's journey, where you've come from, where you're going, why you've done what you've done. But it also allows you as kind of the leader, and again, you've stepped into that manager coach role as opposed to being a player. It allows your players to make decisions and record them. It allows you to keep an eye on what's happening, what decisions are being made, and you can make sure everyone's aligned to our vision, where we're trying to get to this season with those decisions or with that discovery. It means you can step away a little bit. So you've still got oversight, but you're not having to be involved in it every single day, making every decision. You can start to build that up with your team. That naturally then will lead you into trust. I wish I could push the right arrow at the right time. And trust, therefore, is about kind of giving them that power and authority to go away and do these things, to give them the authority to make decisions, give them the authority to have conversations, to do discovery work. All we're trying to do, we're not trying to micromanage them, we're trying to remove that. But you still have to have an element of structure. And to gain that trust, that structure will need to be in place. So if your top guys are out doing the work and they're recording the conversations they've had that align to the strategy or the vision, not every single conversation we're talking about specific ones. If they're recording every single decision, you can obviously keep an eye on that. You know they're making the right decisions, the right calls, doing the right discovery without you having to micromanage. There might be times where, yes, you have to step in and go, okay, I can see why you've made that decision, but actually I think we should do this. But it means you're not having to step on them constantly. And again, you have to kind of think of it as in kind of from a sporting perspective. So I'll jump to NFL because the Super Bowl's just been on. Andy Reid, head coach of Kansas City Chiefs, has got quarterback Patrick Mahomes. He obviously trusts him explicitly, and vice versa. Andy and his offensive team will make calls. They will say, this is the play we want to do in this situation. Once they're on the pitch and that play starts running, it's actually on Mahomes to say, yes, that's still a good play and we can still go with it. Or he's looking and say, actually, no, everyone's covered. I need to do something different. And he needs to have a bit of agility, a bit of trust to make his own decisions to say, I know what you've asked for, but actually in this scenario, I'm going to do something different. And again, if you can start to build that with your teams through giving them access to the data, reviewing the data, let's do retrospectives with them at the end of the month, take them through what's good, what's bad, what's not, then you can really start to move forwards as a team. Finally, I've hit the right arrow, which takes us into the last stage, which is then obviously building momentum. So we've kind of hopefully tried to unpack a little bit, get things off your shoulders. We've aligned the team, we've brought them on board. You've got a framework and a structure to work to. We can start to trust them. Big picture. That's our next step, isn't it, as we're building momentum? So it's not just about one season. One season gets you to a certain point, but actually you're planning as a leader, you're planning 2, 3, 4 seasons ahead. You know where you want to get to over a certain period of time. So everything you're trying to achieve in this season actually is building towards next season, is building towards the season after that. And again, that's how I want you to start thinking about your financial years maybe as seasons, or hopefully you're into sport as F1 seasons, as NFL seasons, however long they are for. Each one is individual and it's standalone, and each one has its own goals that you want to accomplish, but there is always a bigger picture that you want to get to over a period of time. So again, how do we kind of bring that longer vision in again? And we don't do it in vision, we don't do it in stage 4, because actually you can kind of confuse people too much. So what we want to do is keep them focused on that 1-year plan, but by giving them the bigger picture, hopefully they can see that the things they're doing, the information they're capturing, the data they're capturing, the work they're doing, what they're doing to take the company forwards is actually all part of a bigger plan. And that hopefully, if this year's about survival, next year's about mid-table, the year after is about Europe, and the year after that is challenge for championships, let's build on that so people know we're moving forwards in the right direction. We then move into stage 8, iterate and improve. Obviously, most of you will have heard of Kaizen and things like that. So it's not about standing still. It's about taking that information, use the data that we've got sitting in the system, whichever system you want to use to capture that. We take that data. We also can start to look at our financial data. We can see where decisions have been made, what they've been taken, what the impact of that is. In today's world, you might want to throw some of that data into AI and kind of suggest some ideas where we think we're weak or where we can improve. You've got the qualitative data of every decision or the discovery we've done about the market, our competitors, all of that data. You've got some financial information on how we've performed. Give us some ideas on where we can kind of iterate, improve, use that information to change what we're doing and to make us better as a team. So again, as head coach, you're not satisfied with just setting the vision. Everything should be about kind of making everybody in your team slightly better at what they do as well. So you're going to have players coming through that need to grow to learn sport. Again, you have footballers that come through, they're incredibly good, but as a coach, actually you want to get them to the best they can possibly be, whether that's playing for the national team or whatever level they can get to. It's kind of on you to help get them to that point. And hopefully through this structure that we've got, that we put in place, we can help you improve your teams and keep adapting, keep being iterative. And again, through this kind of monthly cycle that we're looking through the time box of races, you can actually kind of tweak your vision, you can tweak your big picture, because you're 2 or 3 quarters ahead, because we've given you that headroom to look at it. So you've got that view on what's coming, what's happening next. We can tweak, we can be agile with our vision, with our strategy, with our business plan. It doesn't have to be a kind of a set in stone plan. We can tweak, adapt and change it as we see the results coming in. And likewise, again, if you're a sports team, you might be aiming for the top, but actually you've had 1 or 2 really bad results. Things aren't going as well. What can you change to make sure that the next time you do it, you are delivering and you are winning and you are succeeding? And then the last step really is sustain. So this is really about kind of revisiting everything, making sure we've got those structures in place, making sure we've got the framework, making sure we're capturing the data, making sure we're using it, making sure everyone knows what the vision is, what the big picture is, where we're aiming for a company, and making sure that just everything is in place as a system so that you as the head coach can almost step away a little bit and you can focus on, I don't know, you can go and do some more podcasts, you can go do more exhibitions, you can go and speak at shows, you can be on videos, you can do all sorts of, I'm going to say, the fun stuff that a CEO, a leader, key person of influence can do and should be doing, knowing that your team is in place, they all know where you're trying to get to. And even as they work and as they go through stuff, you know you can see the decisions that are being made, you know you've got access to that. So you can have some comfort that your team is still delivering. And that gets you through to visionary leadership. It's 9 weeks. We advise you to kind of do 1 module per week. You get access to all of them at once, but you can't do all 9 and then implement it. You have to take a bit of time. And obviously in between that, you get sessions with me as well to help you through. Don't ask me how to move slides on which arrow to push, because I've clearly shown I pushed the wrong one constantly. But that's the course. And it is genuinely about lifting you out of weeds. It's getting you off kind of the shop floor, stopping you getting dragged into conversations you don't need to be in, elevating you up or ascending you to a position where you can actually start to visualize where you're going as an organization. And that's why it's called Ascend. And obviously the image you can see on the screen is the person at the top of the mountain. It's not necessarily you getting to that. It's about you getting up there to have that viewpoint of what's going on. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that's of interest. And if it is, please give us a shout, download the playbook, take a look at the webinar that gives you more information, and hopefully speak to you soon.